Okay,
That's great.
kids, another musician. I'm always excited when I get to do musicians because they're my second favorite people on the planet next to actors. This man's name is Eric Harrison. He is in New Jersey. He's taking his Sunday morning just to talk to me, afternoon actually. So thank you so much.
Thank
I want to start off with asking a very serious question. I know that you took a 2-year hiatus from Facebook. I want to ask about that because there are some people that swear that there is a great deal of mental health and well-being that comes along with not being on social media, and especially nowadays. So I'm just curious to ask what made you leave, because most of us have to promote ourselves on social media, and how did it work out for you?
That is the first time I've been asked that question. I took a 2-year leave because during the madness of COVID and the madness of this whole country, George Floyd, everything was becoming political and angry. The benefits of social media were far outweighed by the detriments. And because I have the luxury of doing music for an avocation and not a vocation, I had the ability to step away. And frankly, I was doing live Facebook shows anyway. And so I would do those live shows, and then my kids helped me figure out how to get it on Instagram as well. And then I post stuff to YouTube. So I was continuing to stay in touch with my small but engaged fan base. And I thought, I don't want to look at the anger for a little while. I need to stay away. And it was beneficial for setting limits on my own day because it has an adverse mental health impact on everyone. When I first discovered it, it was like it was fantastic. I was able to get in touch with old friends, and especially during COVID, we needed it at the beginning to stay connected. A good friend of mine, Larry Hart, who's a New Jersey musician, started he called it the Hart Songs Club, and musicians, some of whom knew each other previously, some of whom didn't, we'd get together and give each other weekly challenges, like write a song with this phrase in it, or and then just record the video and post it. And it was a lot of fun, and it built a sense of community, which was great. But it's hard to filter out the anger and the madness. So I felt I needed a reset.
Ah, good for you. And you don't feel that it's, like in the acting world, for instance, when people go off to be cast for a film, they've actually been saying that people will look at their social media, see how many numbers there are, see how active they are. Yeah, I don't know if this is a great idea on the musician side of things because it might be harmful.
Again, one of the reasons I occasionally have imposter syndrome is that most of the people I admire and love who
Yeah.
do music full time, and I'm not one of those people. And since I was young, for 30 years, I haven't wanted to be one of those people. I really like my day job. So if I have a few hundred fewer followers somewhere than I might otherwise have, it's not going to have an impact on my life. And the older I get, the more focused I am on creating great music, and the less focused I am in spreading it and getting acclaim for it. I just want to make a great album, and the reason I feel so good now, and I'm enjoying doing a little bit of publicity, is that I made the greatest album that I'm capable of making, and with nothing spared. So now the rest is gravy. If I get new listeners, fantastic. But the most important work to me is done. So social media presence. I mean, my numbers by any conventional measure are not significant anyway. But so what? Like something may happen, something may not, and it's okay either way.
Good for you. I like that attitude. That's awesome. Now, likewise, on the flip side of the fence, when we look to your musical career, as I understand it, you had a 10-year hiatus. So you went away for a while and then came back again. So for you personally, now coming back, I've been told by a number of musicians that the way music is sold and marketed is very different. The music industry and the landscape has changed so very much. So how are you finding things now, 10 years later?
Well, for a guy like me, they're better because when I started recording and releasing music into the world, back then in the 90s, I couldn't afford to put something out on CD, even in the early 90s. And so I'd have cassettes. And then CD technology became affordable to the commoner. And then like by the late 90s, I could put out CDs and drive around to record stores and sell them on consignment, sell them at gigs, try to get a mention in local press, maybe something nationally. Like I got some nice reviews in some magazines overseas, and I'd, make a few $100s a year selling CDs through the mail, maybe a couple thousand at shows, but it's very limiting. And then the explosion of the digital world, I can find my music where I can find the Beatles music. And I have the old thinking was I have no right to be on the same stratosphere as the Beatles. But now it is this mass democratization. On the one hand, there's so much out there that it's hard to get noticed. On the other hand, you're part of what's out there, and it's wonderful. And it's a foothold and that's why it's been very convenient for me that an attitude of art for art's sake has truly taken hold. A lot of people say it, but they're really bitter towards the world for not celebrating them. I've had those periods of bitterness in my life when I've seen mediocrity celebrated and I've been on the sidelines thinking, what about me?
Mhm.
I need to be a Nepo baby. I need a connection. I need representation. But now I'm at a point where I'm thankful I can go on DistroKid and put out a new single tomorrow. And as soon
Yeah.
as I'm actually working on a new song that came to me last night. I'm going to be working on it today. I might record it acoustically and put it out in a week. And that's great. And in the olden days, you got to mix, you got to master, you got to make appointments and worry about layout and artwork. It's wonderful now. Like for a guy like me, it's great.
Hmm. Okay. So we want to switch gears, talk about your day job for a second. For those of you that don't know, this young man is a trial and civil rights attorney. So what I envision is you living in a courtroom. I kid you not. I'm a smart girl, but I'm like, trial and civil rights. I get the civil rights part, but the trial attorney, I'm like, what exactly does that look like for you on a daily basis? Because I want to get it. You know what I mean?
It's not daily. So I I will generally have, before COVID and now since COVID, I'm at a rate of 4 or 5 jury trials a year where
Okay.
I try civil rights cases. I usually do the defending of the alleged evildoer. So
Okay.
I'm not someone who can say that it's my gig to represent the oppressed fighting City Hall. I'm often representing City Hall. And when
Got it.
City Hall's been naughty, City Hall gets punished for it and City Hall pays up.
Sure.
And but a lot of the time City Hall is blameless and we win. It depends on the case. But it's trial work. And I caught the bug. It's not unlike needing to be the lead singer.
Mhm.
It is a manifestation of lead singer syndrome in a different setting with a suit and tie on. And the suit and tie I could do without, but that's necessary.
Yeah.
And and I do work where I've been at the same law firm for 31 years. I work with people I love.
Nice.
I get to do work that's really enjoyable and calls on a different part of my brain. The writing part is similar to writing music. Certainly the performance part, standing in front of a judge or a jury and presenting your position, not unlike putting a song together and trying to whittle it down to make sure that you're making your point and then shutting up so that your point has an impact
Yeah.
so that you don't overwhelm people with noise and the need and desperation. So there are some parallels to it, but it's I don't regret my career choice. So many lawyers are miserable. So many people, young people I meet who who are interested. A lot of my peers say, "Don't do it, don't do it. Things have changed. It's not what it used to be." It depends. I mean, I do one area of law. There's transactional lawyers who negotiate contracts, never see the inside of a courtroom. But I, I, for me, it totally fits.
Gotcha. So twofold question on this. For one, if money was not an element and you had to give up one tomorrow, which would it be? And second of all, were you able to very cleverly, because I could picture you doing this, take something that happened in court and turn it into a song?
Well, I'll answer the second question first. I, I made a pitch to another songwriter from New Jersey you may have heard of called Bruce Springsteen a few years ago.
Yes, I saw
When
that.
when he the boss got we were in the midst of COVID, we were all home and Bruce got arrested for DUI on his motorcycle at a federal park at Sandy Hook. And he was actually taking swigs from a fan's tequila bottle, which I mean is kind of ludicrous if people are passing around COVID, which at that time, there did not exist the
Sure.
vaccine. And the boss got arrested, and we all saw the police report, which said he blew a .02, which is nothing,
Right.
and they said he failed the sobriety test. Which I
Oh,
mean, if
Lord.
you've ever seen the boss in concert, like he's this freaking superhero, but he's always wobbling. He's always unsteady and regaining his gait. It's kind of like a metaphor for the human struggle that he sings about. So I wrote a protest song tongue in cheek about Bruce. I recorded it on my porch. I released it like in one day. And then
Wow.
somebody picked it up locally. And then my producer Kevin Salem and I went in. He's in Woodstock, and I drive up there a lot when we make music. And we put down a full band track to it. And it did well, and that was a lot of fun. And basically the song was a combination of me outraged at the injustice of my hero being arrested for DUI, which is kind of comical. We're in the midst of race riots, and this privileged white guy on his porch is singing about a multi-gazillionaire getting mad. But I to me it was fun, and we had a good time with that. And it kind of dovetails into what I do in that if I had to pick one, I'd get too restless doing only music. If I
Mm.
had to, I mean, I don't want to drop music ever, but if I could do music for a living and feed my family and put my kids through
Yeah.
college, I'd want to do it sporadically. I would refuse to pick just one. I would take a 1 or 2 year hiatus from law and come back, and vice versa.
Good for you. Look at that. And not only that, you have creative daughters. I see one was singing. I see one has done theater before. Does that lead me to believe that your wife too is also creative?
Well, she'll be the first to tell you she cannot sing,
Oh
but
no.
it's adorable when she tries. And
Aw.
um, my wife and I were drawn to each other because our love of the English language. I was an English major, she was a philosophy major, and
Mm.
we share and a dedication to the arts. On our first date, we talked about Tom Waits and Leonard Cohen, and I knew that if she's not insane, she's the one for me. And
Aw.
we're very very lucky, and our daughters are one good thing I think we embody without preaching it to anybody is that art gives life meaning, and it is very good to have your shit together and to pursue a gainful employment. You need that, but I mean, love and art are necessary. Otherwise, who cares about being here? And
Absolutely.
and I think I think my kids have an element of that. And who knows? I mean, they're young, so who knows where they're going in their careers, whether artistically or otherwise. But you gotta have the joy part, or it's just not worth the gig.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And I also know that you have been very active in their lives. I see with the various different things that they do, their accomplishments, their creative endeavors. So likewise, how often are they coming to gigs and supporting you
Oh, when they're around, they always come. I mean,
when they're
they
around?
go through the pat. You have kids, yeah?
Yeah, I do. Mhm.
Yeah. So I mean, they think you're awesome until they're teenagers, then they're mortified by you, and then they start coming back in one way or another. Like and that has happened with both of them. My favorite recent clip from January of 2024, we had just put out Sal's Place, which is one of the singles from the new album,
Yeah.
and they both got up on stage at me on stage with me at Crossroads in Garwood,
Aw.
which is the local place, to sing back up and to hit a cowbell and a tambourine, and uh, that was great fun. And my little one, I just got back yesterday. She's fronting a band in Maine, where she goes to college, and luckily my schedule worked out so I could fly up and surprise her for her first gig at a bar.
Aw.
And of course everybody was 21 there. And
Of
at
course.
that bar where everybody was 21, we I was able to surprise her and see her belting out Olivia Rodrigo songs, singing Fleetwood Mac, and I cry when I watch my kids perform because it's just so deeply moving to me. I've never really pushed either of them into anything having to do with the arts, but they just found their way to it, and it gives both of them joy. So um, it's a fun thing to watch, and even from the sidelines.
That is so sweet. Yeah, my children want nothing to do with the written word, journalism, my interviews, my red carpets. They want nothing to do with anything, no film related. They're just like, live your life, mom. Great. We don't want any part of this. I'm like, lovely. So I'm always trying to find something neat or interesting. So maybe one day I'll come across someone or something they might like. But I think that's wonderful. Support for artists is just, I can't even begin to tell you how important it is, as you know. Um, Before we talk more about the professional side of things, there's some personal things that I know about this guy. For instance, clearly he loves pets because I see the cats, I see the dogs. In fact, what's up with getting a hickey from a cat? I have to ask that. I'm like, what?
You've done, I appreciate you doing a deep dive on me. Static Nat is a song about a cat that I adopted with my first wife. I was married and divorced young in my 20s, and it was a very ill-fated marriage. We loved each other, but it wasn't a good pairing.
Sure.
And and early on, it became apparent that we'd made a mistake, although I wouldn't admit it to myself. We would try to fill our lives up with something, to put us on a path to some kind of solid ground. And one of those things was we adopted this beautiful little cat the size of my fist, and we named him Nat. And we learned that Nat had been separated from his mother when he was a baby, and as a result, that explained why when he would sleep in our bed, he would give me little cat hickeys. So separated from your mother, every night sucking on my neck. That was all the affection I got, and I gratefully did accept. So
Look at
that's where the
that.
line comes from, and I wrote the song. So I married and divorced in my 20s. I met my wife a few years later, and she is not a cat person, but
Oh,
she was loving. She didn't say the cats go or I go or anything like
sure.
that. But she did start sending me articles she found on the internet about toxoplasmosis because we were in our 30s. We wanted to try to have kids, and if a pregnant woman is exposed to kitty litter, supposedly the risk of toxoplasmosis can imperil a baby.
Wow.
And so she appealed to my neuroses to the point where I made the decision that Nat needs a new home. And I gave Nat to my boss, the partner Joel Werbel, who founded my law firm, because he has a farm with a lot of outdoor animals, and Nat still had his claws, so he was an outdoor cat. And Nat lived about 15 more years. So Nat lived 20 years, and after he died, I wrote this reflective song about him because he'd been an important part of my life, and so that's where it all came from, Static Nat.
Look at that. So we have that, we have the fact, and this super excites me. I'm a huge fan. Most people don't know this of like Pac-Man and Galaga, etc. So when I saw you make the comment about loving the coin pusher game, I was like, how awesome is that? A dude who plays the coin pusher game and admitted it. I was like, that's way awesome. So are you just into that or vintage in general as far as arcade games go?
Oh,
Because that's
that's
awesome.
funny. I'm not really particularly into arcade games. I just talked about the coin pusher and something I
Yep.
wrote up about my new album because it's a metaphor for me for how my creative process works. That um, I'm the most prolific I've ever been, and I'm 57, and that's
Hmm.
way old for this kind of music. And when I was in my 20s, it didn't flow as much, and I didn't have as much good music coming out of me. And I think because I'm such a rabid fan, and I just soak up what I love, I think those influences kind of reach a critical mass, and then the ideas come faster, and the coins get pushed over faster because there's so many leaning over the edge of that magnetized cliff. So that's where
Hmm.
that came from. As for arcades, I'm a Frogger guy. The being able to tell the difference between an alligator and a log has always been a challenge for me. I blew a lot of quarters at Fun and Games at the Brunswick Square Mall in East
Sure.
Brunswick, New Jersey in the 80s. And and my wife's a Pac-Man girl. When there are vintage places. I think we have one a couple towns over that we used to take the kids to when they were little. And my wife and I, like the kids would want to leave after the high from their cotton candy would wear off. And my wife and I would be slamming on the machines like, we are not going until I get the at least the top 10 score here.
Look
So
at
that
you.
stays with you.
That's awesome. It is. And then I read this thing where it says, oh, this guy's a doppelganger for John Stewart. I'm like, if that ain't
Who
something you
said
should
that?
hop right on. Like, you need to hop on that marketing wise. I need to tell Erica that. But I'm like, dude, seriously? You could get some great yardage with that.
Well, John and I have a lot in common. We're relatively how's the politically way to correct way to say this? We are vertically challenged men of about the same age in New Jersey. We were both, as I understand it, he played trumpet in his school marching band, as did I. Not something that one typically brags about when trying to pick up the ladies, but it is a fact. And I know he tended bar at City Gardens in Trenton, which was a legendary venue. And I saw some of my first shows at City Gardens. I took an elbow in the face in a Ramones mosh pit there. I saw REM there in 1984 or five, maybe, with maybe 20
Sure.
people in the audience. And years later, I would find a bootleg of that show from the soundboard, which sounds really, really good. And yeah, and John and I were both very verbose and self-deprecating, so there are definitely parallels. I get that.
Look at that. I'm telling you, you start tagging him, you tag yourself, and then you're like, hey, let's do something together. And
That
before
would
you know it,
feel a little weird, and there John Stewart's a household name. Eric
yeah,
Harrison is not. I don't want to be um, a siphon like that, but I'd
I
certainly
get
shake
you.
the man's hand and give him a hug if I saw him.
Look at that. Okay. So, first question. One of the things that I thought was super cool is that your music was entered and was accepted to a film festival. Not every musician does that. And I'm always touting that you need to have your music everywhere, all over the place. So, was that a choice by you or a choice by PR? And have you done the circuit? Meaning, have you gone to various other festivals in Jersey?
Um, I I just submitted videos that I made that I was proud of,
Yeah.
and I submitted the one about the boss because I had a lot of fun making that. And I've submitted a couple others. I did one called Cougar Jenny when I did my tribute to John Prine. I had written a song. Are you a John Prine fan at all?
A little bit.
I adored him, and he died in the early days of COVID. And
Yeah.
people who love John Prine, people who know John Prine, really love him. To know him is to love him. And Kevin Salem, my producer, we were the best of friends, and we were speaking to each other frequently. And he said,
Yeah.
therapeutically, why don't you write some John Prine songs? And which is impossible because he has a very singular voice. It's like saying, write a Tom Waits song, like
Sure.
write a Randy Newman song. Nobody
Yeah.
else can do other than those people. But I did have some ideas, and John's one of John's most beloved songs is called "In Spite of Ourselves." It's a duet he did with Iris Dement, um, and it's really sweet and cute and profound. and it's about a couple who've been together for a while and how they annoy each other, but they can't live without each other. And I thought, what about a prequel? What if they met when they were really, really little? And I thought of it when I was going through my garage and I found an old photo of my wife when she was 6,
Hmm.
and it was next to a photo album my mom had sent me when she got rid of her house, so for safekeeping, and it had me when I was 3, which would not have been possible because my wife's a few years younger than I am. But I thought, let's pretend she and I met when she was 6 and I was 3. And then, we could call her an older woman. That would make her Cougar Jenny. And let's write a song about our meeting. And so I made a video for it, for her birthday, I think it was. I got old family footage of both my family and her family. We digitized it, and remember, this is COVID. We had a lot of downtime, so it was a sort of love letter video I made, and I entered it into a couple of film festivals that it won, and that was nice. But in terms of marketing, why not? Just $25 for an entry. Just put it out there and see what happens.
Thank you for saying that, because I'll tell you, I preach and I preach and I preach, and people are just like, I don't get it. And I'm like, it's all about exposure. And
Yeah.
those are great places to get exposure. And a lot of us do take music videos. So kudos to you on that one. I want to talk a bit about, I know that you just released your 8th album. 8, that's a lot. So I want you to tell me a bit about the musician I'm sitting with right now as compared to the musician when he was very young and first starting out. I want you to tell me 2 of the biggest lessons you've learned in that time.
Lesson number one, take your time. The world is not, you're not Taylor Swift, where people are going to get pissed off if it takes you a couple more months to get it right. And there's no rush, especially if the music that you make is not particularly of the moment. I make Americana. My stuff could have come out in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It could come out 20 years from now. So, number one is take your time and do it right. And number two, the difference between the musician I was when I started out versus today, um, listen to other people's input, figure out who to trust, and then trust them. And when you develop a critical faculty, let your internal editor listen to your internal editor, but also listen to external editors, and don't be thin-skinned. Like if somebody tells you that something sucks, take their word for it unless you're sure that they're wrong. And
Very
that's,
good
I mean, that
advice.
that comes with aging. That comes with any field. But also embrace technology. I mean, some of these songs, if you had played for me even 10 years ago, if I could get in a time machine or an audio crystal ball and listen to the music that Kevin and I have, have made over the past 5 years, I would have thought, holy shit, I'm going to get signed to a major record label. I'm going to have $1 million recording budget because this stuff sounds amazing. And
Sure.
it's not because I'm great. It's because in the right hands, the technology you can create a symphony on your laptop now. It's just a matter of doing it tastefully.
You betcha, without a doubt.